All right, my friends. So this week we are going to start talking about trying new things and meeting new people and doing things you've never done before. Because we are about to go into the summer and you're going to have the opportunity to do new and different things. And then in the fall, some of you are going to have a new teacher. Some of you will come back and will get to see me again, but some of you will have a new teacher. Who knows what school's going to be like in the fall, what we're going to be able to do and what we're not going to be able to do. So I want you to think about opening your mind up to trying new things, to doing different things that might feel uncomfortable or a little scary. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about the next 2 weeks. And I love this book. It is so fun. It is called The Pink Refrigerator. I want you to watch and see what we can take away about trying new things. Okay? All right. Oh, I forgot to tell you, this book is by Tim Egan. Dodsworth loved to do nothing. Now, this isn't to say that he never did anything, because he did. But his motto was basically try to do as little as possible. True, he did get up early each morning to ride to the junkyard. He'd find things that were still useful, like picture frames and dishes, and he'd bring them to his little thrift shop, and he'd dust them off and put them on the shelves. He never sold much, but a little more than enough to get by. He'd spend the rest of the morning watching his favorite shows, and at about noon, he'd have a bite of cheese and take a long nap. He'd have dinner at 5, and then he'd close the shop, watch a few more shows, and fall asleep in his chair. And that was it. That was the life of Dodsworth. One Sunday morning, Dodsworth spotted an old refrigerator at the junkyard. It was pink and rusty, and he walked right past it at first. Then he noticed a magnet on the front. It was a shiny brass globe, and it was holding a small piece of paper. "Nice magnet," he said. He tried to pull it off, but it was stuck. He pulled harder. He said, "Must be rusted on." He got out his crowbar and used every ounce of energy he had, but the magnet didn't budge. Dodsworth looked closer at the note. It seemed too faded to read at first, but as he focused his eyes, he could just make out the words, "Make pictures." Out of curiosity, he opened the refrigerator door, and on the shelves was a beautiful assortment of paints and brushes and a little red sketchbook. "Well, what do you know?" he said. "These should be worth something." He took them back to the store and placed them in the front window. Later that morning, a lady came into the store and asked, "How much is that sketchbook in the window?" "Oh, I don't know," said Dodsworth. $5, I guess?" As the lady shuffled through her purse, Dodsworth glanced over at the sketchbook. "Actually," he blurted out, "that sketchbook's not for sale. My mistake." Oh well," said the lady. "Thanks anyway." After the lady left, Dodsworth picked up the sketchbook. "Don't know why I did that," he said. "I haven't painted in years." But that afternoon he made a picture. It was of the ocean, and even though he'd never actually seen an ocean in real life, it turned out pretty good. The next morning in the junkyard, he was passing by the refrigerator, and just for the heck of it, he pulled on the magnet. No go. He leaned in again to read the note. As the words slowly became visible, Dodsworth was astonished. The note now read, "Read more." "Whoa!" he shouted. "It's a different note. How is that possible?" He tried to move the magnet again, but it was still stuck. He opened the door and saw that a whole volume of literary classics filled the shelves. "These things are worth a fortune," he said. "I don't know what's happening here, but wow, what a great refrigerator!" He quickly went back to the shop and put the books in the window. A few minutes later, a fellow came by and asked, "Pardon me, sir, how much for the classic books on your display?" "Oh," said Dodsworth, "let me think. They're quite rare." He hesitated. He looked at the books. "Actually, they've already been sold," he said. "Sorry." "Oh, well," said the fellow, "my loss. Good day." The fellow left, and Dodsworth took the books and sat down and started paging through them. They were filled with incredible stories. His favorite one was about a ship that sailed the 7 seas. He read for the rest of the day and late into the night until he finally fell asleep. He woke up really early the next morning and rode over to the junkyard. This time the note said, "Play music." Again, Dodsworth couldn't believe it. "This is the most amazing refrigerator in history," he whispered. He opened the door, and a shiny brass trumpet was sitting on the shelf. Dodsworth went back to the shop, but this time he didn't even put the trumpet in the window. He just started playing. Since he didn't know how to play, it didn't sound very good at first, but by nightfall he was able to get a couple of good notes out. Dodsworth raced to the refrigerator the next morning. This time the note said, "Learn to cook." Inside there was a cookbook and a whole assortment of ingredients. He rode back to the shop and cooked all day and made one of the best meals he'd ever tasted. He was a gifted chef, and he'd never even known it. The next day the note said, "Plant a garden," and inside was a shiny little tree and packets of seeds and little shovels and clippers. Bursting with new enthusiasm, Dodsworth went back and planted all afternoon. He had such a great time that he couldn't believe he hadn't ever done it before. On Friday morning, Dodsworth rode confidently toward the refrigerator, eager to see what it had to offer. He leaned down and slowly read the note. It said, "Keep exploring." He opened the door, hoping to find something fabulous, but there was nothing there. "Hey!" he shouted. "What's going on?" He looked through all the drawers and in the freezer, but the refrigerator was empty. "That's not fair," he said. "Now you're nothing but an old broken refrigerator." Disappointed, he slammed the door. The magnet fell to the ground and the note blew away. "No!" shouted Dodsworth as he ran through the junkyard trying to catch the paper. But a breeze pushed the note over the fence and up into the sky until it disappeared. Dodsworth was stunned. His shoulders dropped. "I can't believe it," he said. "All my good fortune gone, just like that. Just when everything was getting started." He took the magnet back to his shop, sat down, and started watching his shows again, all the while thinking about what the note said. Keep exploring. At 7:15 that night, in the middle of his favorite show, Dodsworth looked at the magnet. He suddenly felt a great sense of wonder about everything. He jumped out of his chair and filled his bicycle with all the things from the refrigerator. The paints and brushes, the sketchbook, the classic books, the trumpet, the cookbook, even the garden. He walked outside, and using the magnet, he hung a small sign on the door that read, "Went to find an ocean." He rode to the junkyard and over to the refrigerator. In the glow of the moon, it looked old and rusty and beautiful. Dodsworth smiled, tipped his hat, and pedaled down the street. What a fun journey he is on. He just started, huh? There's actually a whole bunch of books about his adventures as he explores and travels. And maybe next week, we'll see if we've got time, we might read one of those. But in the meantime, I wanna look at some of his things that he did with the refrigerator. So the refrigerator told him to make pictures, right? And it gave him the paints. And he had painted before, but he hadn't painted in a long time, right? And so he tried something he hadn't done in a long time, and it was a good experience. And then it told him to read, and he hadn't read these stories before, but he'd read other stories, right? So he started with things that were kind of familiar, but that he could do to get started, right? But then it gave him a trumpet. Did he know how to play the trumpet? He didn't. When he finished at the end of the day, was he a great trumpet player? No, not really. He wasn't a great trumpet player, but was he better than when he started? He sure was. He could play a couple of good notes. That's like 2 or 3 maybe. Right? So he wasn't playing great, but he felt really good because he had gotten better. And it was exciting to try something new. So just because we try something new, it's not always going to be easy. It's not always even going to be a good experience. But we will get to try new things, and as we keep trying new things, we will have good experiences, even if we're not perfect at them, huh? But then there were things like the cooking, where he had never really done much cooking before, but it turned out he was really good at it right away, right? So some things will take time, and as we keep practicing, we'll get better. Some things we'll be good at right away, but it's still exciting to try new things. Now we're going to talk about some of the things that might hold us back over the next few days. But first, I just want you to think about meeting new people and trying new things. One thing you are going to do this week for your activity is to work on getting ready to meet somebody new. Now, we're not going to meet anybody new in person, but hopefully you will be able to call somebody that you don't know on a video call and meet them this week to practice meeting new people and trying new things. All right, my friends, you keep thinking about trying new things, being willing to try new things, and make it a great week.